All right, Carmen Bryan.
Hey Vlad, thank you for having me.
Welcome to Vlad TV.
Thank you, it's a pleasure to be here.
So we're going to get into the whole story, but I kind of want to build a timeline in
Okay.
terms of how it all happens. So you grew up in New York,
Queens,
in
yes.
Queens,
Jamaica.
Jamaica, Queens. Okay. And did you want to get into the music industry early on, or how did that kind of come about?
Honestly, music has always been a part of my life. My mom plays the violin, the piano. My brother plays the piano, the drums. I actually play the piano. So I grew up in a musical household. My mom she's a doctor of education, but she's like super musical. She's like a genius, so to speak. She sings, she dances. So she was the one that actually introduced my brother and I to music, to using yourself as a tool, to being creative. And she also used those classes and those lessons to kind of like keep us off the streets and out of the park and give us something productive and creative to do. And that was something that we enjoyed. So I actually played the piano. I started singing at a very young age. My brother's a producer now. My mom went off to continue teaching, and she still plays the piano, she still sings, she still plays the violin, but music has always been a part of my life.
Okay. Now, at the point that you first met Nas, were you involved in the music industry at all, or just a fan of it?
Well, when I met Nas, actually I met Nas through my cousin, Large Professor.
Aha.
Paulie, yeah. Paulie was actually working on the Rakim album.
Yeah.
And Eric B. When I first met Nas, I met Nas when I was like 16, 17. He came over one day with his friends. Like, I didn't even let them in. I was like, Van, somebody's at the door. And that was the first time he saw me. And he said, like, that was like love at first sight for him. So fast forward about 3 or 4 years later, Paulie was working on Nas's album, Illmatic. And he was also working on Akinele's album. So it was like kind of like always this group at my mom's house, which my mom left the apartment to my brother. So that's pretty much like where everything took place in Flushing, apartment 7C. So Nas came through with Akinele and the rest of them, and we were introduced by Paulie, and that's how we met. And it was just like on from there.
Now, at the time, Nas was called Kid Wave?
No.
No.
It was called Nasty Nas.
Nasty Nas.
Nasty Nas. I don't remember the Kid Wave thing. That might have been like...
Before you.
Yeah, the very before. Because, yeah, that would have been...
He was already Nasty Nas at this point.
Nasty Nas. Mm-hmm.
Now, was this before Live at the Barbecue and some of his earlier appearances?
This was after Live at the Barbecue.
Okay.
Because Live at the Barbecue is what kind of really put him on the map. He was working on his album at Columbia. He was signed through Faith Newman. Mm-hmm. So Faith was able to get him on the Barbecue track via Search. Search was managing him at the time, and he had like a little label situation with him. So when Live at the Barbecue hit, that's when he was like, oh, who's this hot kid? Like, he sounds like Rakim, he's super lyrical, super talented. At the same time, he was working on his album. So like that came first, which was a great thing for him because it set up the album, which was highly anticipated and a classic to this day.
100%.
That's my favorite album of all time.
Yeah,
Illmatic.
It's in my top 5.
Mm-hmm.
Top, of any genre. Illmatic,
Right.
I think, was a masterpiece.
It was, and he worked really hard on that album, and it took a long time to complete.
I bet.
Yeah, I mean, I had A&R at Sony calling me like, Carmen, can you just get him to finish this last song so we can get him out? Like, okay, I'll try.
So you meet Nas. He already has his buzz going.
Little buzz.
Mm-hmm. And does he have his record deal for Illmatic yet or no?
He had a record deal for Illmatic when I met him, but he didn't have any advance.
Okay.
Like like I said, it took him so long to complete this album. It took him like 2 years.
Okay.
So that advance was gone like maybe the first 6 months. And then I came into the picture, and that's when he started working a little bit harder towards completing the album. I was working at Def Jam. he had this deal. So it was kind of like we were both into music and just, trying to make our way as young, budding, 20-year-olds in New York City. So I think we both kind of like inspired each other as far as like the music was concerned.
So were you actually sitting in on the sessions for Illmatic?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I was in sessions pregnant, falling asleep on the couch, like, getting up 6, 7 o'clock in the morning and just going straight to work.
Okay. So from the point that you guys met up again and he already has a record deal, do you guys start dating right away?
Okay, so yes, we started dating immediately. Like once we met, we were automatically like, okay, we go together. 2 weeks later, Nas, I think, even proposed to me. So yes, we were definitely connected. We were a match almost instantly. And it was so natural. It wasn't even, it was mutual on both ends. And like it was just very organic, to say the least. Very organic.
Okay. And how long after that do you actually get pregnant?
I got pregnant, I believe, like 9 months after we hooked up. And about 9 months to a year. It wasn't a long time that we were together before we decided to have a child.
So you guys decided?
Oh, no, yeah, Destiny was planned.
Was planned? Mm-hmm. Okay. How did Nas react when you told him that you were pregnant?
He was very excited, very happy. Nas actually named Destiny. Like, he had the name all set up. His friend, he had a friend, and they both said, okay, when we have children, we're going to name them both Destiny. And that ended up happening. And the funny thing about that is I had a best friend. And when I was about 14 or 15, we both agreed that when we had children, if we had a daughter first, we would name our daughter's Destiny. So there's like 4 Destinies running around right now based on like 14 and 15-year-olds promising their best friends that they were going to name their daughter's Destiny.
Gotcha.
So.
And you're how old at the time?
When I had Destiny?
No, when you got pregnant.
21.
21. And Nas is the same age?
20.
20.
I'm a year older than Nas.
So you guys are really kids at this point.
We were children. We know what we were doing. Yeah.
I mean, technically adults, but not really.
We were having so much fun. But the thing is, we thought we were so grown. Mm-hmm. I feel younger now than I did when I was 21. When I was 21, I was walking around like I was 37 years old. Like I'm just so grown, and my shit is all the way together.
Okay.
And it wasn't, but it felt like it was.
So you guys are now together. You're pregnant, and Nas is starting to finish up Illmatic.
Yes.
Now, I've talked about this before. Illmatic was kind of different because up until this point, you always had a rapper / DJ producer team. You know what I'm saying? Eric B. and Rakim.
Yes.
Boogie Down Productions, Scott LaRock and KRS-One. Like
Heavy D, Eddie F.
Heavy D, and his producer. I mean, Marley Marl had his group of the Juice Crew. He was producing for the Juice Crew.
Even Kane had like his.
Yeah.
He always had a crew, Scoob and Scrap.
Yeah, well, those are the dancers.
Well, so that they were still always always
but
together.
With Nas's album, with Illmatic, I feel he had the first super producer album.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Where, right now it's kind of common. When you have the hottest rapper, he's going to get the hottest beats from all the hottest producers. Of course. But Nas was the first one to do that in terms of all the hottest East Coast producers.
Right.
So he had an album that had Large Professor, Q-Tip, Pete Rock, DJ Premier. Mm-hmm. Oh, who am I missing?
Was Akinelli on there anywhere?
Not as a producer.
No. Okay.
And LES, that was the in-house producer.
LES, yes.
Right, but everyone else, he had the hottest dudes at the time come in and bring what I felt was their hottest beats.
Definitely, and honestly, that was based on his own talent. These people loved working with him because he would take their track and just massacre it. And any DJ, any producer, that creates this frequency of music, these vibrations, based on feelings and thought, they appreciate that coming from another artist. I know when I hear tracks, versus tracks that I'm not really interested in, it's a different kind of feeling. It inspires me in a totally different way. So I think that it was a great collective effort on both parties to create those songs in such a way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, with the Genesis, he actually took the intro from Wild Style.
Wild Style.
Yeah. What was that idea behind that?
I think, well, Nas is the type of person that does a lot of research before he attacks anything, any type of project. We have that in common. And he goes back and he does his due diligence. And it's always in the details. It's always the little things that, mean the most. And when it comes to music, he actually does that. Nas is just not that artist that's just going to get up and go into the booth and just haphazardly, lay a couple of vocals down. He can if he chooses to. He can freestyle. But I think he takes a lot more time. He actually thinks about the listener. Like I've watched him write. I've watched him listen to tracks, and he really considers the people that he's lending his voice to when it comes to him creating.